So I'm not gonna waste any more time. I wanna test out the Nars new holiday releases. This one here is the blush palette. It's the Rising Star Cheek Palette. And then I also have the Stargaze Eyeshadow Palette from Nars. I've done haul videos. I'll link one of them up in the cards. I've like swatched all of these and featured these on my channel already. I've just purchased a lot of new releases lately. There's a lot of holiday stuff that's coming out. A lot of things that were catching my eye. Nars is actually a brand that I haven't tried a lot of. I really enjoy their lip products, but I've never tried any of their eyeshadow palettes. So when I saw this holiday release come, I knew I was gonna place the order when I saw that it dropped, because I want to test this formula. And then I saw the cheek palette and I was like, oh, that's to die for. Like, I love the shades. So I definitely want to unbox both of these. I want to swatch them on camera, just do some live swatches, and then definitely get these on my face. So I'm excited to try the Nars eyeshadow formula. I have swatched this before, like I said in my haul video that I'll link up in the cards. And I have swatched the cheek palette. Both of them swatched so nice that I was so excited to try these. So that's what we'll do today. I have a couple of other new things, but mostly I want to just go over these. I've already applied my base, so I'll link everything that I'm wearing down below. I have primed and set my eyes, so I think we'll jump right into the eyeshadow palette. So here is the outer packaging. It's the same on both of these. It's just that the cheek palette is a little bit larger. Like I said, I have swatched these already. Here is the color story. So Nars usually comes out with very neutral or pinky toned color stories. The only thing that I find slightly unusual for what they normally come out with is this light purple, like this lilac shade here. And I don't know that I want to use it today. I have a vet appointment for my cat at 11, and I just don't know that I want to go with a purple eyeshadow look. So I think I probably want to stay in a more neutral lane, unfortunately. So I think I'm most excited to test the shimmer formula more than I am like the different color shades. Because this is on the pricier side, this does retail for $60, and this is a limited edition. I do know that Nars does a lot of releases that are limited edition, but most of their color stories are fairly similar, so you usually can like get the same kind of variety of shades in some of their other palettes. And it looks like in this comes 5 shimmers, and one here in the corner, this gold one, they call like a glitter. And then there are 6 mattes and then 1 satin, which I believe is this shade down here. So let's begin the swatch here. This is that first shade. It's called Hayworth. They call this a glitter antique gold. This is called Heartbreak, which is a matte taupe brown. This is Hollywood Lover. They call this a soft, cool pink shimmer. And here's where we get into words I can't pronounce. They call this a soft mauve matte. This one is Go Deep. Why am I saying the shade names for Nars? I'm gonna get myself in trouble here, really. Call this a matte rust amber. This is Los Feliz, a shimmering copper bronze. So I was wrong. This lilac shade is a satin. They call this Instant Stardom, which is a satin lilac. This is Lights Out. It's a shimmering purple. This is Double Trouble. They call it a matte deep oak brown. This is another satin. This is called Swoon. They call this a rich eggplant color. So it is slightly purple. They call this one Headliner, which is a shimmering dirty rose. This is Walk of Fame. Oh, I did a terrible swatch. They call this a matte orchid fuchsia. The color story there. So overall pretty neutral palette. You do get a little bit of purples in the center here, and then you get some like deeper berry tones or fuchsia colors over here. But again, overall, very neutral. The palette is made in Italy and has a 12-month shelf life. Okay, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go into this shade here. This is the one that I couldn't pronounce. That was that soft matte mauve color is what they called it. And I think it's Nouveau Vogue. I'll put it up on the screen. You tell me what it is. These are pretty powdery formula. Like you're getting quite a bit of kickback in the pan. They feel absolutely creamy and dreamy. So I'm gonna take that soft, like mauve matte is what they're calling it, and just put it kind of all over. When I swatched this, it looked mauve-y, but on me and my fair skin, I'm not sure it's coming out mauve exactly. It looks more gray toned, like a cool gray tone. than a mauve color, but that's okay. All right, I think that's good. I think I want to go into Walk of Fame, which is this matte orchid fuchsia is what they're calling it. And just with the same brush, see if I can go like more into my crease and like deepen it up a little bit so it doesn't look so gray on my skin tone. Just give it a little bit of color. I'm kind of using a new eyeshadow primer and I feel like it's skipping a little bit like along the eyeshadow primer, which I've used this a couple of times before and I haven't noticed that with every shadow, but some of the shadows I am getting a little bit of patchiness. And so it's hard for me to tell, like, because I'm definitely testing out this formula for the first time. I've never tried Nars eyeshadow. I just kind of feel like the way that I'm looking at it definitely feels like it's more of a primer issue than not. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little patchy like right here where the shadow's kind of not laying down. I want to deepen up the outer corner with that shade that's called Swoon, that they called the Satin Rich Eggplant. And I'm gonna kind of like just place it here and then I'm gonna blend it in. Or like diffuse it out a little bit. I think it is so difficult to do an eyeshadow on like hooded eyes. Like I watch some people that don't have hooded eyes and they have a lot of lid space and it looks great. The shimmer you can really see, but on me, I have to use a pretty light shimmer to make my tiny lid bigger. Like I'm just brightening my lid so it stands out more as opposed to like kind of blends in with a darker shadow. I just can't pull off, or at least I don't think I can, like a darker shimmer all over the lid. I'm just gonna clean up this, make me look a little bit more lifted. I'm just gonna go back into that fuchsia color and see if I can't like give it a little bit more fuchsia, a little bit more pink here. Okay, I am going to put the light shimmer shade. I'm really excited for this one. This was the Shimmering Soft Cool Pink, which was in Hollywood Lover. This felt so good when I swatched it. It's a very, very creamy formula. It's like a loose shimmer almost. There's a lot of fallout when I touch it. And I am just gonna use a brush as opposed to my finger. I have a hard time with like my big fingers getting on my tiny lid, and so a lot of times I actually will just go in a more detailed brush. This is kind of like going all over the place. Like it's transferring quite a bit. Just using what's left on my brush to kind of deepen up the outer corner. Okay, so honestly, I worry when working with like mauve shades or more cool tone shadows that I'm gonna get a really dirty, kind of muddy look when on my fair skin, and then I have a hard time creating depth with those shadows because a lot of times they just tend to kind of run together and then they can have a tendency to look a little patchy. But honestly, I wasn't finding that very much with these shadows, which usually is a pretty good indication that they perform really well, that they work well with each other. Okay, well, I like how that turned out, a very neutral look. But I loved the formula. The shimmer wasn't as shimmery as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, it said like a pretty shimmery formula. You know what I think I'll do? I think I'll take this one that they call like a shimmering gold, or no, they call it like a glittering gold, because it seems like it's more of a topper, and I'm just gonna lay it on top of that shimmery pink and see if I can't just kind of like brighten this up. Okay, I like that. Let's recreate this on the other side. I know I'm just a boring Betty with this eye look and I'm not doing something over the top, but I really don't care. Do we do over the top looks on an everyday basis? I see people on YouTube and they do these really, really good like fancy eye looks, but dude, what am I gonna do with that? Like sit around my house? Like I'm not important enough to have somewhere to go with all that fancy eye on my face. So really, like, if I can't create a neutral look with the palette that I have, I can't really use it that often. And quite honestly, if I'm ever playing with colors, it's because I'm doing it on camera. 90% of the reason that we sit and film, I think, is probably so we can play with colorful shadows and get away with it. If I showed up with a bright blue or purple look on camera with like a one-on-one with my boss, I'm sure I'd alarm him. What was that one show with Mimi and Drew Carey? Gosh, what was it called? Like the Drew Carey show? Was it the Drew Carey show? It might have been the Drew Carey show. But like she came with like the bright purple, was it bright purple on her? I don't know, I'm gonna throw up a picture. The bright purple on her like upper part of her lid in a muumuu and showed up to work every day. If we could all just be like her. Well, in more ways than one, I guess. I get all like into the eyeshadow and I'm like, oh, you're still here? I have to remember to like keep my mouth closed when I'm on camera and I'm putting on makeup. And I don't always remember. Sometimes I watch the videos back and I'm like, oh my God, you just had your mouth open the whole time. Does anyone ever think they can do one eye better than the other? Because that's how I feel. I thought it was nice. I thought it was every day. I thought it was neutral. I think that even though this is kind of a more cool tone palette, for me, like if you've seen any of my other videos, you'd know I tend not to go for more cool tone palettes. And so I'd say this is an overall pretty cool tone palette with the exception of like this shade right here. In terms of the mattes, maybe this one, but it seems to be very nice. I really liked the formula. I enjoyed it. I thought everything blended really nicely together. Everything was creamy. So my first impression of the Nars formula is that it's just a really good formula. And I have heard that a lot about Nars, but you know, you never know until you test it out. So I'm pretty happy with that. I am not going to do the lower lash line because I am going to the vet, like I said, and that's just not something I do on an everyday basis. So glad that I tried this. Let's move on to bronzer. I actually have tried this on camera. This is another new release, but it is drugstore. It's the Flawless IRL bronzer from Uoma by Sharon C, which is Uoma Beauty, but it's the drugstore line that she created for CVS and Walmart. It is a cream to powder bronzer. She did release some other items in her new releases, and I believe one of them is a cream to powder blush or just a cream blush. And I've picked up a few of the items from the new releases. So this was one of them. And I didn't get the blush, surprisingly. Like, as obsessed as I am with cream blushes, I don't know why I didn't pick that up. But I also did pick up her like hybrid lip tint, lip gloss, lip oil. So I don't know, maybe we will try that. This was made in Italy, surprisingly. And I think this does retail for $10. Of course, everything will be listed in the description box below. So I am liking this because it's a more neutral shade. You know, I think what I've been doing lately is buying a lot of new bronzers that are in the lightest or fairest shade that they make for the line, and they're just coming out too warm. And, you know, I keep wearing them, but I look back at the videos and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's way too warm, and it just didn't look like it in person, but on the camera, it definitely did. So I'm definitely like considering kind of moving up a shade in the line to get something that's maybe not as warm and a little bit more neutral. I think that's good. So I do like that. I did pick it out again, not just because I wanted to test it, but because I have been enjoying it. All right, let's move on into the cheek palette. So same packaging. This again does retail for $60. It's the same price as the eyeshadow palette. It is also made in Italy. This has an 18-month shelf life. Here are the shades. This is a baked formula. And again, it is limited edition, holiday release, unfortunately. So if you do like these or were thinking about getting it, I would definitely jump on purchasing it now, and maybe even right now during the Sephora VIB sale, because you can then like get it at a discount. Let's swatch this. I have done this before. These were so creamy and great and so pigmented. I really, really enjoyed swatching it the last time that I did. This one is Guilty Pleasure. Oh, it's so beautiful. They call this a rose gold shade. This one's called Famous. They call this a bright pink. This one's called Golden Age. They call this a gold fuchsia. This is Limelight. It's a pink mauve. This is Paramount, which is a peachy coral. This is the shade that I'm really drawn to. And they call this one Premiere, which they say is a Bordeaux red. So here are the colors on this palette. Oh, they swatch so nicely. They're so buttery when you touch them. I'm definitely confused about what to use, but I think that we have to use this one for the eye look, and I think I'm gonna pop it with this maybe, or this one like on the cheeks, or maybe even use the topper. I don't know. Let's just start with the first one. I'm just gonna go onto like a clean, fluffy brush. It's a semi-dense brush. It's not extremely fluffy and it's not extremely dense, but I wanna use one that's kind of like in the middle. I don't think I'm gonna have any issues like picking these up, but sometimes on baked blushes, I do. I am a little concerned that this will not fit into these pans, but they are a decent pan size. So this is kind of what's picking up on my clean brush, which is good. I'm gonna apply it to this cheek. Oh, look at that. It's great. It's really pigmented right away. I'm done. Like that's the whole cheek right there. Just the amount of like crazy blush that I like. I loved me a Bake Formula blush, honestly. Okay, I just wiped off the blush on my brush. I think I have to do this. I think I'm gonna do this one on the apples of my cheeks. This one, I'm sorry, that I used all over the cheeks was Limelight. And then on the apples of my cheeks, I'm gonna go in with Famous, which they call a bright pink, and just see if I can't make the apples of my cheeks pop. I can really easily, apparently. And then I'm gonna go into Guilty Pleasure, which is the rose gold like shimmer. And then I'm gonna like use it as like a topper kind of on the back instead of using a highlighter. Just kind of add this here. Okay, so that is it. I loved every shade. I'm not really into these more pinky tones on an everyday basis, but I liked this one. I just don't think it was quite as shimmery laying it on top of the other blushes I thought it would, but this one was gorgeous. This one I'm really, really excited to try. I just don't think it like really went with today's eye look, but that is a shade that I gravitate towards. But what I think you find in this is a wider variety of shades that will work for every skin tone. I think even the fairest individuals can use these ones. Someone with a more medium skin tone could get away with all of these, and someone with a darker skin tone, it has a shade in here for someone of a darker complexion. So I just thought that the variety in this was really good. I know that it's a more expensive palette, but I mean, Nars is, but I honestly believe that the quality in this was so good. The variety in the colors was really, really nice. And when you have a baked formula that isn't really difficult to pick up on a semi-fluffy brush and applies easily, it already like gets a thumbs up in my book, because I have a lot of baked formulas that actually they're really, really tricky to pick up on a semi-fluffy brush or a totally fluffy brush. And so I have I'm building up a lot, but didn't have to do that with this. So very, very excited. I am going to quickly throw on some of my Essence Lash Princess mascara and then come back. The two lip products that I want to look at, I haven't tried either of them. One is a new release and one isn't. What's drugstore and what's not. And I want to swatch them both and see what like color I want to put on. Honestly, you know, like you can't really beat this. In terms of a formula that's really pigmented, it is lengthening, it's thickening, it gives volume, it separates, it's just not complicated. I try a lot of different mascaras, both drugstore and high end. They range all over in terms of pricing, but I keep going back to this one. This one's just a tried and true. It's a classic, it's fantastic, and it's affordable. I don't know, I just think that's a fantastic mascara. Let's move on into lip products. So the first one that I mentioned was the Uoma by Sharon. This was the hybrid that is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's complicated. Lip tint plus oil plus gloss. This is in the shade Mischief. This was a new release of hers, so this did just recently come to my local Walmart and CVS. This is a really deep shade. So that's the color there. It's very cooling. And the next one is not a new release. This is the On Your Color Liquid Lipstick from r.e.m Beauty. I placed an order for r.e.m Beauty. Got some things that looked really interesting to me. There is the packaging there. It does have a flat side on one side. One of the things that I picked up was like her concealer. I didn't love that, honestly. I know that's like a pretty viral thing at this point, but I just didn't care for it that much. It does have a lot of good reviews. It's just not it's too thick of a consistency for me, so I just really didn't care for it. I am going to keep trying to play with it, but my initial thoughts were that I didn't really love it. So this is a more neutral shade, and I think that this is what I have to go with today, simply because this is just too dark for what I've got going on. So I am going to put that one on. There is the tint, the Uoma by Sharon C1 Left Behind. It's quite a good tint, honestly. I just took off the kind of jelly lip melt that I had. Another new release was the TONYMOLY Jelly Lip Melt. They just released 3 new scents or 4 new scents for holiday, and the one that I purchased was Candy Cane. All right, let's put this on. Oof. This doe foot applicator has kind of a flat side to it, so that's the side I'll use. I didn't put any lip liner. It has a like vanilla scent to it. It tastes like, ugh, it doesn't taste good. I don't know if this turns to like a matte finish, but it's starting to feel like it does. Let's read. Longwear lipstick coats lips in superior color that stays put with a comfortable weightless feel. But it is drying down. It's matte, all right. Okay, it's like cracking on my lips. Okay, so it's a matte finish, but it's really drying, and you've really got to like let it dry because it's a little sticky initially. I'm definitely not leaving it like it is. So I'm just gonna go in with my Maybelline Lifter Gloss and just go on top, because like there's no way I can stand that formula. It was already cracking my lips. So maybe that's just the ticket. You'll get a long-lasting formula like underneath. If you top it with a gloss, then it breaks down well. Sometimes like it rehydrates it. I feel like a matte finish when you put a gloss on top, and then it'll help it to break down the matte finish a little bit better, so it doesn't look, you know, terrible as you're wearing it throughout the day. So I would not suggest wearing this on its own at all, because it just was like breaking apart on my lips immediately. So that's my 2 cents on that. So everything was nice today. The goal was just to test out the Nars formula. I loved it. I really like the quality of Nars. I wasn't disappointed, so glad I got to try that. Let me know if this is something that you're interested in picking up, or something that you've already picked up, or I don't know, just how Nars fares in your mind and ranking in your collection or quality that you've tried. So I'd love to hear from you. So that is it for me. I'm out of here, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.